What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Week 6 recap / Week 7 preview of National Pastime. John and Toaster here because J-Rob is so sick of watching the Broncos that he just couldn't bear to talk about them anymore. He's going to need at least a day to recover from the Russell Wilson flu. So we will give him an opportunity to take a breath, and he'll be back next week, I'm sure. Actually, just kidding. It was because he's been in Tucson for a week, which most of our listeners, I'm sure, can appreciate is enough to give you the flu. So get well soon, J-Rob. We'll get him back on here.
He's got a little bit of extra time to game plan, and that's never gone wrong for the Broncos. So.
Yeah, no kidding. He did go 1-3 on his picks this week, so maybe that's the reason he's skirting us too. I don't know. For the record, you went 3-1. I went 2-2. So I think we went 500. If my math is correct. Thanks, J-Rob. Really screwed us there. We'll just pile on him while he's not here.
With how crazy this week, I'll take 500, quite frankly.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't think any of us really got into any of the games that were, I guess, a little weird, but as far as our picks go, but we'll definitely talk about them tonight. So let's just get right into it. Thursday night, Commanders and Bears. Commanders win 12-7. For some reason, I feel like this was not as bad of a game as the score indicates, or as bad as the week before, the 12-9 Broncos loss that was all field goals against the Colts. The Bears moved the ball in this one. They obviously shit the bed in the red zone, but I mean,
what's the defensive red zone called? Because they also shit the bed there, trying to receive balls.
Yeah, well, see, that's the other thing. Like, this is where gambling is like just so annoying because you took the Commanders, I think, as more of like making sure we weren't all picking the same teams last week. Maybe you believed in them, I don't know. But like, the Bears had 3 possessions inside the 5 that resulted in 0 points, and the only touchdown the Commanders had was on a muffed punt inside the 15-yard line. There's zero reason that the Commanders should have covered or won in this game, but they did. Carson Wentz was Carson Wentz, frankly. Turns out he also has like a broken finger or some shit now, so he's going to miss some time. Taylor Heinicke will be taking the reins instead of Sam Howell for the Commanders moving forward. But this one was, I mean, I can just come at it from a Bears perspective, was like brutal. It's one thing to play really poorly and lose a game. It's another thing to just make like awful mistakes, and that's what ends up doing it. Obviously, the muff punt by Velus Jones Jr., who I'm going to assume will not field another punt for the Bears the rest of the year. He also muffed the punt 2 weeks prior that eliminated any opportunity for them to put together a game-winning drive against the Giants.
Is that really a bold prediction? Because it sounds like he's not fielding punts right now either.
Well, it's yeah, no kidding. Great point. He's great at touching them and letting them hit the ground for the other team to pick them up. Yeah. He's great at helping the other team field them. Yeah. SEC Defensive Player of the Year last year, by the way. I just want to call that out. Or sorry, not Defensive Player of the Year, Special Teams Player of the Year. Yeah, sorry. And 2 muff punts in 2 weeks in the fourth quarter that essentially end the games for the Bears. But the Bears have a chance at the end of this one. Justin Fields has a 40-yard run, gets them inside the 5, and they have back-to-back drops. I'm counting the Mooney play as a drop, even though it was technically a catch that left him short of the goal line.
I was shocked that didn't get reviewed because he definitely did not catch that. He was out of bounds. It should have gone back to the 5. But
I think they did review it. Did they not?
I don't think they did, but
okay, maybe I was just like so enraged that it was like impossible for me to pay attention to what was happening. But
Carson was able to get 9 fingers past the goal line to run out the clock.
Yeah,
with just over 40 seconds left. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, what strikes me most about this one, and like the conversation around the Bears every single week, is going to be Justin Fields and how he performs independent of the situation. How much is him? How much is the situation? Did he miss throws in this game? Yes. Did he not pull the trigger on throws that were open, quote unquote NFL open? Absolutely. Did he also make outstanding plays that should have won them the game? Yes. And that is really all that should matter for anybody that's looking at Justin in this scenario right now. I don't know how much, because we can't go back in time. I don't know how much the conversation changes if Darnell Mooney catches that ball, or even Dante Pettis catches the ball before that, or they call pass interference on that play before that, and the Bears end up winning this game. But it's, you can't watch them and not just feel so terrible for this kid. Like, he is just getting absolutely blasted. And I mean, the reason that their offense isn't functioning is he is not absolved from any of it. It is him missing throws. It's him taking sacks. It's the offensive line breaking down. It's the receivers either not catching the ball, not running the right routes, all this stuff. It happens all the time. And I feel awful for him. Maybe this is what we should have all expected was going to be what it was. I just think when you see it in real time, it's brutal. But the Bears now fall to 2-4. They have the second hardest schedule remaining in the NFL based on current strength of schedule. The Commanders improved to 2-4 somehow with that performance. I don't think anybody is going to credit them too much with the win there. But this one was two bad teams and Thursday night, and it was just a recipe for disaster, not to mention those terrible helmets that the Bears wore. So,
I think this
hand
was
up, I
worse
fucked
than
the pickup, but
I think this was worse than the previous Thursday night, quite frankly. This was the second lowest scoring game this season, and Carson Wentz had 99 yards passing. It was unbearable all around. The only thing that kept you excited was the fact that, hey, what's going to happen on this play with Justin Fields? Because it's going to be exciting one way or the other. Either he's getting his shit rocked, or he's still going to be throwing the ball way too deep downfield, holding the ball for 6 seconds, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we've talked offline on, his time to throw, really an appropriate metric for
yeah,
somebody of his skill set. But
yeah.
why
Need to
do they
take
keep
script.
why do they keep targeting so far downfield? Like, he's got the highest average depth of target in the league practically, and that doesn't seem like it's been a recipe for success so far. You don't have the
It's him.
receiving core. It's just him wanting to hit a big play every single
It's
time.
just who he is. Justin Fields has completed, I don't know if you saw this stat. Justin Fields this season has completed more passes of 10 plus yards than of passes of less than 10 yards. That
That's
that's
it's
who he
different.
is.
It's very different than where the NFL's been the last 5 years, right? Because it's been
Sure.
bubble screens, quick, easy ins, let the guy run after the catch. So
Yeah.
maybe
It's
that
just
it's
who he
adjustment
is.
all around. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like the toughest part about it is the team is not built in any way to play to that strength or to mitigate or protect him against his bad habits. And I think that's where this thing gets really out of whack,
Yep.
because if you at least would have invested in the O line, the interior O line, and you can work through the things he needs to work through if good habits are able to be formed, and they can't be formed when the interior of the pocket collapses all the time and he has to run and he has to extend plays, and it's just not in his nature to fucking check down. And maybe he gets there when things can progress and the system around him will function, but yeah, it's just not who he is. And maybe when we get to Bailey Zappi, talk about the Zap Hive. What is the better route for a quarterback? And maybe there are different situations and different skill sets and whatever. But like, the big game hunting is so exciting, and I think that's why you can't, like, at least me personally, I won't back off of him yet. But he will not take the layup. He just won't take them.
Well,
Or when they are there, he misses them.
maybe once he breaks a rib or two, like it looked like he might have in this last game. I was quite
Yeah.
frankly super concerned for him when he had, I think it was three straight. dropbacks where he got dropped and took quite some time to get up that he'll reconsider that. But he's exciting.
Yeah.
I do think that this is unfortunately for the Bears, there's a lot of really crap teams right now, so they don't even have a top five draft pick. But
I know.
with the strength of schedule that they have coming up, I
I
think
think they'll get there.
do they still play the Packers twice? Because that would hurt them as well if that's a toss up at this point.
Only one more. Only one
Oh, okay,
more. And it's at Soldier Field, so you never know.
there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that terrible game. We will move on. There was a lot of games that I really want to like at least touch on. We'll obviously get to the big games, the picks of ours. But the Falcons beat the 49ers 28-14. And I don't know how you necessarily feel about this one. I will say something that has struck me in looking at this stuff from this week. The Falcons are 6-0 against the spread. So whether that's them being disrespected or them just like clawing away, I mean, I couldn't even tell you week to week how they've played, to be perfectly
I'll
honest.
tell you, I'm not touching them minus or +6 against the Bengals because I have no idea how it's going to play out at this point. They are frisky, they're fun, it's exciting to watch, and I mean, Arthur Smith doesn't look like the dude on the sideline, but he's got this team playing like he's the dude.
Dude, speaking of, so I created a Bears like newsletter slash blog over the weekend because I needed somewhere to get my thoughts out. And one of the most recent posts that I did was 3 ways that the Bears coaches can help Justin Fields, and it was incorporate more play action passes and run pass options. And one of the things that I talked about in that section were the teams that I felt like they needed to emulate from an offensive standpoint: the Eagles, the Giants, and the Falcons. Looking at the structures and like the way that they incorporate those two concepts. So Marcus Mariota, he only has 18 play action attempts this year, which is 26th in the league. He has 61 RPO plays. That is far and away number one. Jalen Hurts is number two at 43. Arthur Smith is just doing exactly what his quarterback is best at and just saying, fuck the rest of it. I'm just going to hit this easy button as many times as possible. And Marcus Mariota has been, by all accounts, very good at that. And is it sustainable for them to be a really good team long term? No. But you're helping your team be competitive in games by playing to his skill set. I give Arthur Smith so much credit for what he's
It's
doing.
exactly what Hackett's doing for Russ, right? Just oh wait, we'll get into that one later.
Yeah, sorry, J-Rob. But I mean, I don't think either of us think the Falcons are for real here, right? They're 3-3. They're right in the middle of all this shit. But they are frisky, like you said. I think there's a few teams that fit in that category that we might continue to talk about. And the 49ers, this just feels like a classic, like early mid-season Kyle Shanahan. Just they shit the bed against a bad team, and you're like, what the hell is this team? And then we won't even be thinking
And then,
about
yeah,
this
they're
8 weeks
playing the
from now.
Chiefs next week, and they can blow the Chiefs out, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
this game doesn't matter at all.
yeah,
No, Jimmy definitely didn't have his best game. It was, I mean, from an offensive standpoint, they did move the ball. I quite frankly don't know how the score ended up quite as out of hand. Obviously, there was the Jeff Wilson fumble that was returned
yeah.
for a fumble touchdown, which was awesome. Two fumbles on the same play, but recovered by the then offense in the end zone. That obviously helped put it away. And then there was a couple tip ups for Jimmy G to get his 2 interceptions. My biggest takeaway is the Falcons are fun. The 49ers are decimated with injuries. So does it mean anything in week 6? No.
Same year
As long as they
or
get to the
same shit,
playoffs.
different year, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But there was no Williams still. They were missing Bosa on the defense. They were missing Ward on the defense. Like there was nothing there. Mariota, his stat line doesn't look all that impressive, but he was actually 13 of 13 if we're going to talk about Russ's going 10 for 10. So was efficient, and I agree with you that Arthur Smith is putting them in a position to succeed, and it's the damned if you do, damned if you don't thing for me for the Falcons, because this is going to drive them into a middling draft pick, and they're not going to be able to get Kyle Pitts fourth overall in the next draft.
Yeah, but I think they're in a position where that's okay. We'll probably have a pod about it later on and after the season or something. I don't. There's one quarterback in this class that I'm like kind of excited about. The rest of them, I'm not. And I don't know if you want to be in that position. I would say just continue to stack blue chip players. And as long as Mariota stays healthy, I mean, he's a fine bridge quarterback, I feel like, for this team.
Yeah.
So,
No,
you know,
I agree with you too. And the biggest thing to me is getting that confidence in the team, right? If Arthur Smith shows that he can do this with these people, just like Brian Daboll's showing he can do this with these people for the Giants right now, that gets people excited more so than saying this is a top free agent destination.
yeah, for sure. Their only issue is that Ryan Pace is in their front office and he is just gobbling up former Bears players. So, good luck. Uh, all right, let's get to another very frisky team. And I don't really know how to feel about this team, and it's because of the quarterback, but I
Is
will.
it the
Um,
Jets?
the Jets.
Okay.
They annihilate the Packers in Lambeau 27-10. The Packers special teams is a disaster. They get a blocked punt for a touchdown. I think there was a defensive score as well. And maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. Brees Hall, like, he ran all over them. I mean, Zach Wilson played terribly in this
Yeah.
one. And they beat the shit out of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in Lambeau. It defies everything that I know as a Bears fan, and I'm all the credit in the world to Robert Saleh and that staff and the way that they've
Keep those
leveraged.
receipts.
Yeah, yeah. The way that they've leveraged the assets that they have started accumulating really ever since they traded Jamal Adams to the Seahawks, right? Like they've just done such a good job building that team outside of Zach Wilson, who they're like, what do you see? When do you see a single flash play from him? Because we've seen a handful of games and I just don't see that. And he's not been efficient enough down to down, like sort of the opposite of Fields, right? Or Bailey Zappi. He's not winning on those layups enough to make up for the lack of splash plays, but the team around him's good.
The
And,
number of times
he's
you
excelling.
watch him throw an easy out route right into the ground is just it, it honestly feels like a violation. Like those are the plays that you have to hit as a professional quarterback, and he has the athletic ability, has the moxie. Hide your don't hide your daughters,
Your mom's.
hide your wives and your moms. Yeah, with this guy, but no, he was not the reason that they won. I'm more thinking that this is like in honor of Halloween, like an Annabelle situation where like they're just passing around these first round draft picks and it's destroying teams at a time. So it's like it went from the Jets to the Seahawks, now it's to the Broncos, that there's some sort of curse going on right now. But this isn't out of the ordinary for the Jets. They took it to the Bengals early last year too. They have some surprise things. Was not expecting them to be 4-2 at this point, but watching Brees Hall, I can't say I'm not impressed by what they're able to do with him. The defense is turning it on, and I think Aaron Rodgers retired before the season, and he just doesn't want to admit it at this point. The biggest thing for me is
Ooh.
Rodgers and Brady can't both retire this year, so it's going to be a rock paper scissors situation for who plays one more damn year. I would lean towards Rodgers, but he looks checked out right now. If they don't
Yeah.
get a splash free agent wide receiver, trade for a wide receiver at this point, I don't think that he's gonna want to finish out the season, quite frankly.
Yeah, I was listening to the Athletic Football Show, and Robert Mays and Nate Tice were talking about it. They said, I forget which one of them said it, but it was so perfectly put. They're like, this is the look on Rogers' face is like 2018 Mike McCarthy, like checked the fuck out. Like he doesn't even have it in him to be upset anymore with
Right.
this group. And we've been working on a bit of a quarterback metric here, and the idea is to isolate quarterback play from receiver play and all kinds of stuff. And Rodgers is rating really, really low on this metric, and I don't think it is off. Like he's not completing balls down the field at all, and I understand part of that is his receivers, but part of it's on him too. And I don't know if you saw this quote. I think this came through later in the day today, but Rogers was asked about the offense and more or less said something that like they need to simplify it. And Matt LaFleur was asked about it, and he said, "Well, what does that mean?"
Yeah.
So I agree, man. I think
the other aspect for me is that he used to thrive extending plays, right? It's not that he was the most mobile quarterback by any means, but he used to be able to roll out, get out of the pocket, extend some
yeah,
time, find some wide open receivers, and he just doesn't look interested in doing that anymore. He's just like, well, somebody's coming up the middle. Guess I'll go down, save to fight another day. At this point, kind of like Brady's made a reputation of the last 3 or 4 years, where I'm not getting away from this, so I might as well just take my lickings as soft as possible.
but is that not like just a function of him getting older? Like, yes, you can function as a pocket passer the older you get in today's NFL. We've seen a lot of guys do that. But if your game is at all reliant on something like that, I mean, look at Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson can't do that
Don't look
anymore.
at Russell Wilson. It'll
Well,
bug
yeah,
you.
please. Yeah. We'll tell you how bad it is. You don't have to do it yourself. But like if that's a function of your game and not even just running, but extending plays and athleticism, like that tapers a little bit and it changes the way that you can play. And without the supporting cast around him, I mean, I don't know, this year more than ever is really highlighted to me in some of these different situations how important a supporting cast is in today's NFL. Even if quarterback is the most important piece, you need a good team around you. You need a good scheme around you. And yeah, the Packers. Phew, good thing the NFC fucking sucks.
I was just gonna say,
Because
I mean, you wanna shit on them, but they still have the Lions twice. They have the Commanders. They have the
they have the
Titans, the
Bears.
Bears. Who knows what the Dolphins will be by the end of the year? So we aren't ruling them out of a playoff contention by any means at this point.
Yeah,
But uh, Rodgers, like I said, just doesn't look like he wants to be there anymore, and I'm not
no.
sure what's going to change that outside of some sort of free agent signing. And he came out and said that as well, right? That he's like, if there is going to be a trade market in this NFL environment, then we better be in the mix for it.
Yeah, I mean Odell's still floating out there. Obviously, the Panthers are in sell mode. DJ Moore could be had. Um, I don't know. We'll see what else is there, but yeah, it's been rough in Green Bay for sure. Um, I want to talk about now an NFC team that is really the opposite of the Packers. Beat them last week, but the Giants, they beat the Ravens 24-20 here, and I mean, we talked about how much we love what Brian Daboll is doing. I still don't think the Giants are for real. And maybe this was just another like Ravens like can't hold a lead, like whatever situation.
Another 10 point or double digit win going in, or double digit lead going into the fourth quarter that they can't hang on to.
Yeah.
MVP.
Yeah. And Daniel Jones just like again, so going back to um that article or whatever I put together and looking at what they've done, Daniel Jones has 159 pass attempts. 40 of them are play action attempts, which is fourth in the league. And they've run 13 RPOs, which seems like a low number, but it's eighth in the league. So they, like the Falcons and the Eagles, are just spamming the easy button, knowing the limitations of their quarterback, the limitations of their roster, and they're doing enough to win. And I don't know, unfortunately, they're in the same division as the Eagles, so they're not going to like coast to an easy division win. They're probably going to have to fight for a wild card spot here. But to start out 5-1 with as bad as the NFC's been, they're in a good position right now.
This is where Belichick made his moxie, is that he plays to their strengths, and Daniel Jones is not their strength. Daniel Jones has the lowest average depth of target in the league, and it's really not that close. They're just saying, we don't give up the ball. He had one fumble this game. It was at the end of the second quarter. Time expired, so it really didn't matter. Him just not turning the ball over is the difference in this Giants team right now. Give it to Saquon. I mean, this was supposed to be a complete rebuild year, right?
Yeah,
They just shed all of their salary cap space. They're taking on the dead cap hits. They said, we we got Saquon and we'll see what he can do, but they weren't expected to be competitive this year, and so this 5-1 is a complete surprise. But really, it is the turnaround of Daniel Jones and just being able to hold on to the damn football. Props to Brian Daboll.
amazing what that
I don't
does, huh?
I don't know. Truly, I agree with you that they are complete pretenders. They are frauds. They are not a 5-1 football team, but your record is what it says it is, and at this point they're 5-1. I'd take the Ravens 9 games out of 10, especially give me the Ravens up 10 points in the fourth quarter, 9 out
Yeah.
of 10. But this was, to me, bigger for the Ravens than it was for the Giants, because they've got to figure out how to stop people on defense. And Lamar he can't have 2 turnovers in the final 3 minutes like he did in this game. That's just not acceptable from what is, I guess he's not even their franchise quarterback, because they can't seem to come to terms on that. But your potential franchise quarterback.
Yeah, yeah. I know how you feel about Lamar. I did see a funny I'll get us out of here on this, but I saw a really funny tweet. I forget who it was, but they said that the Ravens secondary, like when they tackle, it's just all arms and sass. And that's really all it is. I mean, they're just like the biggest shit talkers, Marcus Peters, right? Like biggest shit talker, one of the biggest shit talkers in the league. But like they're just getting fucked at the end of games. And there's a lot of things happening there. I tend to think that those sort of issues can get corrected. If you are consistently going into the fourth quarter up double digits, it's probably a good thing. And I think they'll be fine. But like, yeah, it's man, small sample size of a few games. They just are like shit in the bed, and it's not been good. But yeah,
I just
props
have
to
to
the
throw.
Giants.
I just have to rattle off some names real quick. Daniel Bellinger. I thought he played Major League Baseball actually. Wandale Robinson, Marcus Johnson, Richie James, David Sills the fifth. Apparently they went through 4 other ones, and this was the only one that stuck. 1 reception for 8 yards. And Darius Slayton. Like, they are winning games with the bottom of the barrel of offensive talent, and
Yeah.
Brian Dayball turned around Josh Allen, and maybe he turns around a hell of a lot of other careers if we're looking at this name right now, or these names right now. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. Good for Daniel Jones. You know, it. I think at the end of the day, the NFL is better when the Giants are fun.
Hmm.
Even if they're a team that we all love to shit on and whatever, like it is better, and I'm enjoying it right now. I'm happy for them. I love seeing underdogs like sort of succeed and maybe it's because I just want them to enjoy it as much as possible because I don't think it'll continue. But like, good for
Yeah.
them. All right. The next game I want to touch on here before we start to get to some of the big ones, but the Patriots, they beat up on the Browns 38-15. Bailey Zappi goes 24 of 34 for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is obviously limited from a talent standpoint, but good for him. Good for the Patriots and what they're doing here. I guess, where do you stand on what they've done over the last few weeks? Their defense has obviously been exceptional, but I think the turnaround in the offense with Zappi at quarterback has been the big story.
100%. And the difficulty with being, removed from some of the X's and O's, is this the offensive coordinators finally figuring out the scheme that works? Because Bailey Zappi, don't get me wrong, he's been playing very well, but he's hitting some wide open wide receivers, and they did not have that those previous 3 games
First
that
few
Mac Jones
games.
was there. It's I'm not calling it a quarterback controversy by any means at this point. I think it's the offensive scheme finally figuring itself out. Bill Belichick's done this for years, that September's kind of a feel yourself out, see what you can do, what are your limitations. And Zappy's just executing. That's what he's
Yeah.
doing. He's got a couple of turnovers that really aren't his fault. There was an interception last week. There was a fumble this week, but they were plays that you really can't scheme against, right? Like it's if somebody hits you from behind, you're
Yeah.
more
It's,
likely than not gonna fumble. Like
hmm
those aren't turnover worthy plays in my metrics at this point. Those are just
Sure.
plays that happen. So that will be the interesting part to me is when Mac Jones does return as the starting quarterback, because I don't think that there's any way that this doesn't happen. Is he able to execute on the same level? And Bill Belichick will be the first one to say if he can't execute, Zappy's the guy. I mean, he did this as Bledsoe versus Brady again, right?
Yeah.
Except neither of those guys have the same talent as either of those two individuals. But if Mac isn't able to execute, then this will be Zappy's team before long. I don't think that that's happening. Mac's too talented, but he's got 5 interceptions this year in 3 games. So he needs to. He hopefully is watching tape, learning what needs to happen, and maybe Matt Patricia, Joe Judge have figured out what the actual secret is for getting some receivers open for this New England offense.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what this offense looks like with Mac back, and I think, and we can talk about it more for the Monday night preview, but I think he'll be back for that game, and the Bears are a good team to really come back against. So I'm excited to see that because if Bailey Zappi can execute the offense to this level, I think Mac Jones can do it even better. I know Mac's numbers didn't look great and their offense was kind of middling, but referring back to the quarterback metric that we're kind of workshopping right now, Mac actually was not rating too terribly there. And it's because surprisingly, if for a guy that you would think just like takes what's given to him and completes a bunch of short passes, was his completed air yards per attempt was actually pretty high. And you don't have to throw the ball down the field for that
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but if you are throwing to the sticks all the time and you're not just like dinking and dunking at the line of scrimmage, throwing bubble screens and whatever, like that's impactful. And Max was doing that prior to getting hurt. So I don't know, we'll see. But the Patriots, if they can get like any semblance of competent quarterback play here, which I think they can, and their defense plays like it's playing, I mean, they're going to give teams some problems. I still think talent deficit on offense is going to be a challenge for them long term, but like they will be in the mix because of Bill Belichick and what he's able to do week in and week
Okay.
out.
So we've all agreed now that it's not a rebuilding year again. Okay. Just wanted to be
Yeah,
clear.
I don't
Um,
think Belichick really rebuilds, if we're being
But they've
honest.
got if depending on whether or not the Jets are for real, they've got Bears, Jets, Colts, Jets. So we'll find out real fast what their metric is going to be. They can't be
Yeah,
500 coming out of those 4 games, but if
right.
they're, seven or 6-4, then we can keep the discussion going for the Patriots right now. So I wasn't expecting Mac to be back for the Bears, quite frankly. So
Oh,
we'll
you're
see how
not.
that
Okay.
plays. We'll see how that plays out on Monday. Quite frankly, I hope he's not, because give it time to rest. Um, uh, the soft tissue injuries they linger if you don't give yourself enough rest. So I hope he's not there. I don't think that they need him for the Bears. Get that Zappy bandwagon going a little bit harder, and then see if Mac Jones can take on the Jets.
Yeah, Zappy Hive. Let's do it. All right, let's get to the somehow was not a primetime game, and I have no idea why the NFL did this, but the Bills at the Chiefs. Bills end up winning this one 24-20, and it's just so amazing watching these two quarterbacks. And I know you've got certain feelings about Patrick Mahomes, but what these guys are able to do, they make all of the just 1% plays look so easy. And they still have the ability to execute on the layups like it's nothing. And Josh Allen is just like on another planet right now. I mean, he made like 3 or 4 plays in this game where you just like shake your head. in amazement. You're like, what the fuck are you even supposed to do defensively against that? And Patrick Mahomes does the same thing. And I think these teams are on a collision course for the AFC Championship. And I hope we get that, because it's unfortunate that they can't compete in a Super Bowl, but we'll take
Yeah.
that one if nothing else. What was your takeaway from this one?
Somehow Josh Allen had 6 big time throws in this game, and nobody else had more than 3 in any other game. So uh, this was to me the passing of the torch from Patrick Mahomes to Josh Allen officially, and it doesn't even necessarily come down to just passing skill, because I think they are both incredible in that regard. Josh Allen wants to win. He's just got that fighter spirit in him. Watching him hurdle for that 16-yard first down. Can you imagine being a teammate right there and saying, "Hey, if my quarterback's going to do this, then what the hell am I not going to run through at this point?"
Yeah.
Think about a running back and say, "Hey, that hole's not there, but guess what? I'm going to hit it as hard as I damn can because or maybe I'm going to jump over that hole because I think my quarterback can do it, so maybe I can too." Um,
Yeah.
it was uh, crazy that Tony Romo actually called the final score in the first quarter. That it was going to be this feels like a 24-20 game. Props to him. I mean, he does have more premonitions that go wrong than right, but he nailed that one on the head. And I think that this was a big learning experience for the Bills to just say, play within yourselves. The pitch that potentially set them back to start the game, game off when Josh Allen, I would say ill-advised, tried to make a bigger play than he needed to that early
Yeah.
in the game. Could have come back to hurt them. Thankfully for the Bills, Patrick Mahomes returned that in kind, trying to throw into the end zone, into some pretty good double coverage there. But this is to me, this is the SEC. I'd watch this every single week. Like, just put this on repeat, and I don't care about the other 30 teams. Let's just watch these two duel it out.
Hell yeah. And I know the score was only 24-20, and both quarterbacks, had some bad mistakes, but I think a lot of that is more of a function of just the fact that both of these teams know that if you're not going for broke, you're going to lose the game, right? Like Josh Allen has experienced putting his team ahead, having 13 seconds left on the clock and losing a fucking game to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
What did he leave them 16 seconds in this game or something? They still came back and scored a field goal there too. So
Yeah.
yeah, just these are two explosive offenses. The score doesn't reflect it, but the talent was there, and it is a chess match, right? You're not going to be able to have a knockout punch every single time. So
Yeah.
you do have to have those dinks and dunks to set up other plays. And to me, fitting that the Chiefs had a chance to go win the game with Patrick Mahomes, and Bills defense came away with an interception. And gosh, if this Bills defense was fully healthy, I don't even want to know what this team would look like right now. Last takeaway, they're not trading for Christian McCaffrey. That's just not happening.
No, I know. It's fun to think about though. Like, what could you imagine you add him to this offense? Like, what? What? It just doesn't make any sense. I hope for the
Considering no other wide receiver had more than 3 receptions, and Christian McCaffrey's averaging 7-8 per game, it would be just astronomical numbers for Josh Allen at this point. It would be
can
fun.
you
They're not giving up a first round draft pick for Christian McCaffrey, and quite frankly, no one else in the NFL wants Christian McCaffrey to go to the Bills because it just won't be fun at that point.
Yeah, I hope that the Panthers don't do that, because I mean, I feel like the Bills getting Von Miller, who showed up in this game as well, was enough of a, like, just don't
Yeah.
let the rich get richer. Let's not give him Christian McCaffrey.
And just real quick on that, I was shocked that Von Miller's made the impact that he has. I did not like that contract when it was originally made. I was like, you're paying for past performance, not future
Yeah.
performance here. And he's turned it on. He looks just like he did in the playoffs last year for the Rams. So props to
He's
Von.
been stellar. And look at the Rams without him this year. They have arguably the worst pass rush in the entire NFL, and they have Aaron Donald.
Yep.
So he's been. I'm just as shocked as you are that he's continued to play at this level this late in his career. Good for Von. All right, moving on to the Sunday night game. I don't know if we need to hang on this too long, but the Eagles beat the Cowboys 26-17. The Eagles are undefeated. They're far and away the best team in the NFC. The Cowboys, admirable effort here, but ultimately, I think we've seen Cooper Rush get exposed now. They're could not get Dak back quicker, but you know, where do you stand? I guess ultimately on the Eagles, like, do you think they are legitimate Super Bowl contenders or just beating the hell out of teams in the NFC when the NFC is really bad right now? Because currently they have the second best Super Bowl odds um, in the NFL behind the Bills, which makes sense being 6-0 in the NFC. But I, I mean, that means that Vegas thinks they're for real to some degree.
I think that and I think I've made this comparison before, that they are the Cardinals from last year. Their schedules help them out. They've beaten the Lions, the Vikings, Commanders, Jags, Cardinals, and Cowboys. So I can
Yeah,
completely see them carrying on to 8-0. They've got Steelers, Texans, Commanders, Colts next. Like, it will be a
Jesus,
good
they're gonna be
season
10 and
for
0.
them. Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from what they've been able to do. I do like what Nick Sirianni's done. I have legitimate concerns that they can't score outside of the second quarter, and they give up. I mean, they were up 20 to nothing in this game, and they let Cooper Rush with his three interceptions bring it back to something where we're like, are they gonna cover this game? Because
Oh
it
yeah,
certainly didn't feel like that at that point, right? So I do have my concerns. I think that they're going to be fun to watch. I think that they'll have a very successful season. I think that if the rest of the NFC can figure themselves out, that they will run into trouble in the playoffs.
yeah. I mean, they're so well built, but I think at the end of the day, they're the concerns that people had about them going into the year. I think the reason that most people, I will speak for myself, had thought they would be good but had reservations is because it's not that Jalen Hurts isn't functional, but it's that when you run that type of offense, which, ninth most play action attempts in the NFL, second most RPOs, you just have a ceiling to
Right.
your offense with that, right? And it's not that you can't, it's not what you want teams to do. Like, again, I'm pounding the table for the Bears and, look at the Giants. They've been successful doing the same thing. And we talked about the Falcons, but it's the fact that at the end of the day, the NFL will always come down to, can you drop back and get a bucket on third and long, on end of game situations where you can't run play action and RPOs
Right.
because that
They
threat
won't
is
be
removed.
effective at that point. Exactly.
You've
And
right.
I think you nailed it on the head, that these types of offensive have ceilings. If you have a positive game flow, you can continue to execute. As soon as you don't, and you don't put up those 20 points in the second quarter, you run into trouble at the end of the game. Because, I mean, even Lamar Jackson, right? Like,
Hmm.
very similar aspect, and that's probably why his playoff record hasn't been as successful, is you're playing the cream of the crop once you get to those last 3 or 4 games of the year, and
Yeah.
you don't get to play with positive game script all the time. So I still do. I mean, I'm super impressed with what Jalen Hurts has been able to do. I don't think that they draft another quarterback next year, and they've
I don't think so
got
either.
they've got a couple first round draft picks. So this is Howie Roseman has set them up for success for quite some time right now. And as long as the NFC East continues to be as pitiful as it is, and I say pitiful even with all the records that are going on right now, because they're still full of frauds.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the Eagles will be successful for some time. So congratulations, Philadelphia.
Yeah. I want to see this team be successful because I like rooting for guys like Jalen Hurts and I like the way the team's built. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with them. Um, I think they're a little more stable than the Cardinals of last year, just to that point. But we can come back to that. So we need to keep moving here. Monday night game. Chargers beat the Broncos 19-16. Good Lord, is the Broncos offense terrible to watch. So I'm gonna just just quick fire thoughts, and then we can move forward here. The Russ situation is obviously not working out. We all know that, but it just the last three drives of that game, run, and completion. They had four straight 3-and-outs to end the game when they had an opportunity to just kick a field goal to win, and it's bad. Okay, and now Russ is hurt. We'll see how much he milks that to the degree of absolving himself from some of this blame.
Can I throw
My
in
other,
one thing real quick?
yeah, sure.
Russ accounted if you sacks don't go against passing stats in the NFL, but if they did, Russ accounted for -9 passing yards in the second half.
Oh Lord. Well, I mean,
He,
they do for team stats, not individual players, though. But
right.
yeah. Oh God. Yeah, that's brutal. My other takeaway, because I don't think Justin Herbert played all that well in this game. I do have a little bit of reservation about the Chargers, where they currently stand, but I think with them sitting there at 4-2, they'll be just fine. But Patrick Surtain is ridiculous. You just can't throw to him. Like, he is already maybe the best man coverage guy in the NFL. But I'll say conservatively top three. And they are running a lot more single high coverage than they have traditionally with this Broncos team over the last few years, which is putting him on even more of an island. And I mean, he just wiped Mike Williams off the face of the earth last night without
Yep.
Keenan Allen. He's just absurd. But Broncos tough to watch. We'll see what ends up happening with their overall record. I think they will bounce back a little bit. Chargers, I think, will be fine, although the offense, something feels broken. But any other takeaways from you on this one?
No, I had similar feelings that Herbert, he actually played extraordinary considering what he had to deal with, in my opinion. Wasn't expecting Lindsley to be out. Rashawn Slater's still out. He
Yeah.
has been running, and he's playing a little scared right now because when he had a chance to convert on that third down at the end of the game, he had two wide open wide receivers, and he was staring right at them, and he still just had this reservation. So something is a little bit off there, but to me, it's Joe Lombardi's offense, and they're just not playing to his
Oh,
strengths.
it's awful.
Like all of these little 4th and 2s that they're going after, and they're running the same damn curl route, slight out. There's just no separation from their wide receiver. Herbert's actually, and this is why I say Herbert's actually playing pretty well. He's putting the ball right where it needs to be, but the receivers don't have any separation, so they're getting knocked down by their Surtains, the rest of the defensive backs, because they're just not open. Without Keenan Allen, they're not able to expand the field. I do have more hope for the Chargers now because I think they just exercised two demons. They exercised Staley's 4th down issues last week against the Browns, and then props to Dustin Hopkins in being
Yes.
able to finish this game on what is probably they called it a fairly significant hamstring injury for Russell Wilson, so I'd imagine that Hopkins was even more significant than that fairly significant.
Hopkins actually lost his leg, but still
Yeah.
made the kick somehow. I don't know. It was amazing.
So I was just like, as that was happening in overtime, I was just like, this is the Chargers. This is where they throw away their season, and they miss it by a half a game because they tied the damn Broncos in
Yep.
week 6, right? But no, what I did want to postulate, and I know we need to move on right now, is uh, I think Hackett should be fired because they need some sort of spark to this right now. There's no ties to the current ownership. He is not doing anything to help them succeed. The defense, everything is happening in spite of the offense. They put up 21 points max in any game this year. And so my question is, does Sean Payton even want to be in Denver right now with Russell Wilson?
Oh, I don't think anybody wants to touch that offense, but I don't think Hackett is even remotely on the hot seat. I know he doesn't have ties to ownership, but the general manager and the SVP of whatever the fuck John Elway is, are still tied to him, and I don't think will be that quick to admit a mistake. I'm still gonna jury's still out on Hackett in my mind, but I do think the best thing that he could do is give up play calling duties. The problem is you look up and down that coaching staff, it's a bunch of really green guys. And there's no veteran coach to lean on. There's no veteran play caller. A lot of times with these staffs, it's like if you have a young play calling head coach, you probably have an offensive coordinator or an offensive line coach or something that is called plays at some point in the NFL that you can be okay, let's pass it on to that guy.
Yeah.
That they don't have that. So
I
Hackett
just
has to keep it.
like I said, there's only so many sparks you can get in this league right now. I mean, it's like a Major League Baseball manager running out and just getting kicked out for no damn reason other than I need something to change right now.
Yeah.
And the Broncos need something to change right now because this offense is not Hacketting it.
Yeah, it is not. All right. Moving on, last game that we'll recap before getting to the preview. This was my bonus pick for last week. I'm pretty sure I said that I thought the Seahawks would win outright as 2.5 point dogs at home against the Cardinals. They just dismantle the Cardinals. 19-9. Geno Smith didn't even play as well as he has been playing, although I do still think that Geno played decently. But the Cardinals could not get DeAndre Hopkins back fast enough. I mean, this team is so broken, and maybe getting Hopkins back flips the switch for them. But the fact that you are so reliant on like a 1% talent at a position to ultimately say, like, oh, if we get Hopkins back, we're going to be fine. It's like, this guy's not getting any younger. Okay. And the chances that Hopkins stays healthy, even like for any significant period of time over the next handful of years of his career, is probably pretty slim. Like, if you're
Yeah,
saying that that's the one piece that you can't lose and your whole team falls apart, then you have bigger issues, right?
well,
Like it.
then you can't pay your other guy $250 million to hold the team together.
Well, yeah, that's true. And Kyler, oh boy, I mean, his, I don't know. I guess maybe I look at it and I say, oh, his overall numbers don't look bad, but the underlying numbers are bad, and he is playing bad. He's made some special plays that has kept them in games, but the negatives are far, far, far outweighing the positives with him right now. And that's a guy that you just gave all that fucking money to. I mean, I get the same vibes, like, or I get the same feeling in my stomach when I watch them and I watch Kyler make a bad play as I do when I watch the Broncos and I see Russell Wilson make a bad play. I'm like, you just gave this guy so much fucking money, and this is what's happening.
Yeah, but
And
Kyler makes the bad play so much faster.
that's true, very true. That there you can't account for that with stats, right? Um, the last thing I'll say about this, Cliff Kingsbury was asked about whether he should give up play calling, and he said that they all things are being considered, which gave me such bad flashbacks to Matt Nagy. So I raised the question on Twitter: is Cliff Kingsbury just Matt Nagy with better hair? And I think he might be. Um, you know, props to Cliff for turning a sub 500 college coaching career into an NFL career where he's made a lot of money, and he is living in Paradise Valley, and he is coaching it, whatever, some of the top talents of the world in Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. But good Lord, is it rough. And man, the fact that they extended him and extended Steve Keim without even seeing how this Kyler situation would play out, it just makes no sense. Thankfully, the Rams are not playing very well right now, and the 49ers aren't playing very well right now, and the NFC West is still up for grabs, even as the Cardinals sit here at 2-4. But oof, boy, like you can't feel confident about them at all if you're a fan of this team, I don't think.
No, I mean, Murray threw a jump ball to 5'9", which I think that's generous.
It's tall
Marquise,
for Kyler, though.
for 5'9" Marquise Brown against a 6'4" Tariq Woolley, who has 4 interceptions in 4 consecutive games now. Like,
Yeah.
and then to add insult to injury, after he caught the interception, he broke Marquise Brown's foot. It's just terrible decision making all around. I I don't think that they'll fire Kingsbury in the middle of the
I don't
season.
think they will either.
But they need D Hop back so much, and I think that leads us right into, is D Hop what gets them over the edge against the Saints?
Do you want me to make the
Yeah,
first pick
yeah.
here?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So getting into the week 7 preview, the Cardinals are 1.5 point favorites at home on Thursday night against the Saints. I'm taking the Cardinals in this one. And the Saints are still a bit of an enigma to me. And I think it's because we haven't had like any consistent level of quarterback play from them. They're 2-4. They pushed the Bengals this week, but ultimately lost 30-26. I think the Cardinals will be at home. They'll have the energy of getting DeAndre Hopkins back. It's 1.5 as of right now, and I think that is low enough that I feel okay taking the Cardinals, essentially to just win outright. But that's where I'm at with them. So I think it is.
They're 0-3 at home, by the way, so not
Oh,
exactly
nice.
the the home field advantage. But I unfortunately am with you. They need a spark. I think that they still have enough belief that they have talent on that roster. I think that they just pepper D Hop with targets right now, and D Hop, assuming that the PEDs haven't completely worn off, is probably still a superior athlete to anything the Saints can have right now. Lattimore's out, Landry's probably out, Thomas is out. Both Dalton and Winston are
Winston.
limited right now. So I'm gonna take the team that I at least know who's gonna be out there at this point in time. And like you said, if this to me at that spread it's a pick 'em. I'll take the team that I think has superior talent, and that is Kyler. As much as I shit on him, with D Hop back, they still have Ertz. The big question mark to me is Hudson going to play? Because I think that is extremely detrimental to him when he's not out there.
Hmm.
But they started trying to run Murray last game. He had 10 carries for 100 yards.
He said he
And
wants to run more.
yeah, and so I think that this is something where we're going to see Taysom Hill versus Kyler Murray, and who can run faster for more yards, and that's going to go to Kyler.
This is just now that we're both on the Cardinals. I'm like, Taysom Hill's going to run for 120 yards, and the Saints are going to like
He's gonna
win. Oh,
he's
it's
gonna
going to be
start
just
catching his own touchdown passes at this point.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Saints will win this thing like 20-10, and yeah, yeah. Okay,
I
so we're
would bet
both
for
on the
the under
Cardinals.
on this one though. Yeah.
Yeah, I would too, especially on Thursday night. All right, the Sunday night game. The Steelers, who we didn't talk about, but they beat the Bucks this week. With on the
J
back of
Rob
Mitchell
took them
Trubisky.
+8, by the way. Yeah. Or minus.
Yeah,
He took the Bucks -8.
-8 and 8.5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, on the back of Mitchell Trubisky, who made some fucking plays when the Steelers needed it at the end of this game. Absolutely insane. But the Dolphins are likely to get Tua back, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's what I read. So they are 7-point favorites at home in this one. Where are you going?
All the smart money would be on the Steelers right now, but I think the Dolphins need an explosion. They need to prove to themselves after last week against the Vikings just not getting it done. Tua needs the confidence, and as much as a 7-point spread scares me, I don't think that the Steelers offense can score that many points. So I'm going to count on Waddle, Tyreek, somebody getting free, which is risky. Outside of their big comeback win against the Ravens, the Dolphins haven't put up that many points. So
Yeah.
it is something where I think that they feel like they need to get right, get those guys involved, and they they have a superior offense 100%, and their defense isn't shabby. So I think that they can handle Trubisky. And again, it's not the smart money, but it's where I think that ultimately it'll lie that 7 points is not going to be the difference between the Dolphins Steelers game. Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm on the Dolphins too. This game opened at -4.5 and moved fairly quickly to 7 points with the Tua news. So the Steelers, like, again, you give Mike Tomlin credit for keeping them competitive, winning games they shouldn't win. But at the end of the day, like Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, flip a coin. It doesn't really matter. I don't think it's really changing their fortunes all that much. I think some of those Mitch throws were YOLO throws and they just worked. And, sometimes that's what made Mitch successful at times. He just less thinky, more throwy. And, sometimes it works out. And I don't think that's going to happen against the Dolphins, especially in Miami. I don't know. This one feels like you're scared off by the 7 number because the Dolphins haven't really given you much confidence the last few weeks. But I think getting Tua back and being at home, I think they'll be fine. So I'm
Well,
also on
yeah,
the Dolphins -7.
I was definitely going to be on them if it was an afternoon game, just because of that heat and that advantage that they have in home. Being after dark scares me a little bit, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Steelers' offense is just a volume game at this point. Like there is no run game to speak of other than continuing to just give Najee the ball. And then while they have a bunch of talented receivers, the Dolphins have a bunch of talented cornerbacks. So I, hopefully this one isn't as disappointing as the Thursday night and Monday night games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, so we are both on the same. We're both on the Cardinals, both on the Dolphins. I have a feeling we're both on the same Monday night as well. Bears at Patriots. Patriots are -8 now, so I think this started at -7 if I'm remembering correctly of where it opened, and it's steadily moved. Um, I'll let you go first because I have kind of an interest, or like I'm excited about this game for maybe not the reason you think I am.
Yeah, I hate betting on the Patriots because of the emotional hedging on everything, and seeing a number that big makes it even harder. Bill Belichick destroys rookie QBs, and I understand that Justin Fields is not a rookie QB,
Well,
but
he's technically played less than a full season of starts, so
he's essentially had the development of a rookie QB with how much
yeah.
turnover has happened, with how little offensive line support he's had, with how little receiving support he's had. So, if the Patriots can shut down that run game with Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery, then they should be able to win this handily, which they were able to do against the Browns last week, but that was more the Browns taking the ball out of Nick Chubb's hands and Kareem Hunt's hands for some reason. Don't really understand that one, but if we're looking at this on a talent and a coaching standpoint, the Patriots have both, and this is one of the few teams the Patriots have a talent edge over.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm also on the Patriots -8. This one is interesting though because at least from a betting standpoint, I think like if you are picking money line here, absolutely continue on the Patriots. But this one opened at -6 and it moved. It's moved now to -8, but 79% of the money is on the Patriots, which tells me that they are trying to get more Bears betters in here to shift the line back a little bit. So, we are recording this on Tuesday. We'll see where this line shifts ultimately by the time the game starts. But I think if you can get the Patriots maybe a little closer to that open number at 6, you're probably better off. But for me, this one is exciting because I mean I love Bill Belichick. I'm such a Belichick nerd. I respect the hell out of him. He has tied George Hallis for career wins, right? Or did he pass him last week? I thought he tied him. So
He
he
tied him.
tied him. So he has a chance to surpass George Hallis, to be in sole possession of second all-time wins playing against the Bears. He cares about that kind of shit, and that's cool. But what excites me about this is I really see two. I mean, the Patriots can attack the Bears in so many different ways that it's like not even funny. But I'm curious to see what Belichick ultimately goes to because he is the master of week by week gameplay or game plans, right? Like tailoring his game plan and approach to his opponent, depending on what that week is. And what they've been able to do the last 2 weeks, playing against teams that I think are similar in structure and talent to the Bears in different ways, but he's been able to basically put his his corners on an island, let them play man, and use that heavy front to stop the run. And if you look at what Justin Fields has struggled with the most this year, his numbers man versus zone are pretty stark. He's done much better throwing against zone coverage, and he has really, really struggled against the blitz. And I think part of that is his offensive line. Part of that is when teams blitz, generally they play man more, and his receivers have gotten the least amount of separation of any receiving group in the NFL. Makes it really fucking hard. so I'm curious to see if Belichick really steers into that because that's a strength of his defense, or if he says, really it comes down to two things. Are you going to challenge Justin Fields because that's how you challenge him? Or are you going to say, I'm not going to let Justin Fields beat me? Because what does happen when you play man is you leave yourself open to he breaks the pocket, and he's been very successful running the ball recently. I mean, he gave them a shot to win the game last week with that 40-yard run at the end of the game. Does he play more zone and say, look, I'm going to make you take the layups, and I will see how many of these layups you are willing to take before you take a shot that I'm going to, confuse you with post snap, whatever. And so that's why I'm excited about this one, because I love the way Belichick's mind works, and the Bears are like the perfect case study for like, do I want to play to my strengths, or do I want to like take away my opponent's best offensive player? Not to mention the fact that the Patriots offensive line is playing really well. They're running the ball really well with Ramondre Stevenson. The Bears cannot stop the run. I mean, I think I'm on the Patriots -8 in this one. I like it a little closer to the open, but I'm just excited to see like really, Bill Belichick, how do you want to kill me this week, bud? Because I'm just do your worst. Hit me with your car. I don't care.
So basically, this week will not be painful for you anyway, because either
And
the Bears do
well,
well
yeah,
enough, or you get the cover. I
yeah,
hear you
probably
completely,
not.
and the Patriots linebackers are not the fastest, so it will be interesting. I actually do think that they'll end up playing more zone than would be expected, and that's Bill Belichick 101, right? What do you expect him to do? Okay, he's not going to do that. So
Yeah.
it'll be an interesting game for sure. I don't know that it'll be a tremendously close game, but if you
Nah.
actually, it's kind of like watching baseball. If you appreciate what strategy is going into each and every play, even if it's a ball outside, there is actually some thought process behind it. So I think that's what we're going for. Super fitting for him to drop, potentially go up against Hollis or pass Hollis against the Bears. And then
Yeah.
there is a little side story there about the history lesson that he gave his team coming out of the Browns stadium last week. Just the history that the Browns have had, and how much that their players, Jim Brown, Ozzie Newsome, have all done for the community, and what they've been able to go through. That he actually sat down and had his team go through that experience and gave them a history lesson in a true Bill Belichick form. So good for Bill. I think that he gets the job done here. And then what games are we going to be against each other on? Because we need one of those, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we may have sealed our fate that we're about to go 0-3. Um, I'm going to, and I've waffled on this one, but after I guess doing the recap of last week, I'm going with the Falcons here. The Falcons are 6-point dogs in Cincinnati, and Falcons are 6-0 against the spread. 6 points is quite a bit, and the I don't know, the Bengals just are one of those teams where I think once the spread gets beyond 3, 4, maybe 5 points, I just don't feel all that confident in them covering. Looking at last week, they ended up beating the Saints, but they were 1.5 point favorites. Like they won by 4, but again, we're like talking about a team that has nobody at quarterback and whatever. So like I I don't know. They just don't
They
scare me,
they were supposed
right?
to lose according to ESPN win probabilities all the way basically throughout the entire game. They started as favorites and then immediately lost it, and it wasn't until they started hitting big plays to Jamar Chase at the end
Yeah,
that
Chase
they were
breaks
able to.
tackles.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm I'm not going to say I'm with you because we have to be separate on this one. Maybe this is the one that will say I'll go on the Joe Burr side because Joe Burr's my boy. I know how much you hate him.
Oh yeah.
That at some point the Falcons' luck has to run out. Not overly impressed with the Bengals, but being under a touchdown, I can play devil's advocate on this one and see the Bengals being able to do just enough to put away the Falcons.
Yeah. Um So yeah, we'll see on that one. But I like the Falcons going to 7-0 against the spread. Um, I admittedly picked a game that I don't think is going to be super interesting. So I'm leaving the door open for you to maybe pick a more interesting one. So who do you have?
Oh, well then I'm not I have to change my pick then because I'm going taking the Chiefs -3 over the 49ers, and the 49ers just got stomped by the Falcons. The Chiefs are on a vendetta right now after getting, I'm not going to say plastered by the Bills, but they definitely got put in their place by the Bills, even in a competitive game. The 49ers, with all of their defensive injuries right now, they just don't scare me unless they're getting Bosa back, unless they're getting Ward back. I think they still have two offensive tackles that are out. They just look decimated, and this is a game that preseason you wouldn't have expected them to ultimately pull out, and there's no reason to change that now. I think that the 49ers will still be very competitive, especially since no team's better than 3-3 in the NFC West right now. But this isn't their week. Even at home in Santa Clara, I think the Chiefs are able to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. Like 3 points. I'm not really sure where that's coming from. Um, I know the Niners are tougher than maybe the public thinks, and I think they will rebound a little bit from last week. But like you said, the Chiefs are going to be coming out hot after that Bills game, and they're going to want to get right back at it. I don't think there's any real issues coming west the same way that there is with a West Coast team going east.
Right.
So that doesn't worry me at all. So I would be with you on the Chiefs there. I mean, three. I'm shocked by that number, frankly.
That's the number. Honestly, most of the games this week have pretty crappy numbers. Good job, Vegas, on that one. Even given the Giants as underdogs once again to the Jags, don't know exactly where that one's coming from, but I'm not going to bet against it either because I think that just goes to show that there's not a lot of confidence in the Giants right now. But
Yeah.
at 3 points, the Chiefs with their firepower and their health right now, I think that they get it done in Santa Clara.
I would also grab that if you are betting that game as soon as possible
Is
because
it?
this line opened at 1 and has moved to 3, and I think I could see this line easily getting up to like 4.5 or something before the week's over. So
Completely
um,
agreed.
yeah. All right. We have covered all of our picks. Is there any other game this week that really stands out to you that you think people should be paying attention to?
I
The
the
slate's
beautiful
rough.
part, yeah, I mean the thing that last week taught me is that any week is any given Sunday. Throw out Thursdays and throw out Mondays for sure, but Sundays can be exciting. I mean, Tommy Brady got stuffed on a 3rd and 1, which hasn't happened in years. Justin Tucker's missing field goals. Like it just NFL's insane right now. If I had to pick one that was interesting, probably are the Jets for real against Denver.
Yeah. That line is, it's, are the Jets being disrespected, or is this Vegas still saying like, look, we think the Broncos ultimately will fix this, and the Jets aren't as good as people think? I don't know. I mean, anytime you have a home favorite that is less than a field goal, it tells you, I think, all you need to know. But playing a mile high is never easy, and that one's interesting. I will give you that for sure. Um, the other one that I just don't really get, and I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb, but the Bucks are 11-point favorites against the Panthers, and I know the Panthers are trash, but have the
They
Bucks shown you anything that would make you take them, like giving double-digit points?
I didn't want to take them at -8.5 last week, and J. Rob still did it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the Panthers are trash. The Panthers are 1-5 against the spread, though. Not that the Bucks are great; they're 2-4 against the spread. That's
Yeah.
a big number for me for an offense that just hasn't been doing anything. That Bucks offense looked rough against. I mean, Steelers have a good defense, but they don't have the same defense that they have when T.J. Watt's there. I think that was their first win in their history without T.J. Watt since he was drafted. So it
Oh,
was,
look
yeah,
at that.
it's. I wouldn't touch that number, quite frankly. I steer away from double digits whenever I can, anyways. But that's a big number.
Yeah, that ugh, I don't know. I don't want any part of that. I think the Bucks will ultimately be fine, but especially with as bad as the NFC is, I think they'll get healthier. They'll figure it out. Godwin's looking like he's getting healthy, but yeah, I don't want any part of that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I
in good
think
news, we
that
don't have to go out with a Broncos country let's ride, and that's not because J Rob isn't here. It's because Russell Wilson also didn't do it at the end of his last press conference. So maybe we
oh,
are seeing the
ooh, it's that bad, huh?
humanization of Russ Wilson. It's so bad right now. We preseason, everyone thought the AFC West was going to be a superpower. They would have two teams drafting in the top five right now, the Raiders and the Broncos, except the Broncos don't have their first round pick because they traded it for Russell Wilson. So the Seahawks have that one.
It is. It's just so dire. Like, no matter how you look at it, it is. Oh, it hurts. It hurts.
Not a good time to
Um,
be a Broncos fan.
no, definitely not. All right. Well, that will do it for this week. And yeah, I mean, we're right in the. I think we're starting to reach the point of the schedule where finally starting to feel, despite injuries, which there's definitely a lot across the league, but we're starting to feel maybe a little more confident in who certain teams are. Um, the fact that there are so many teams in that 2 to 3 win, like, just blob, though, is
It's fun.
yeah, it's fun. I mean, this is what the NFL wants. This is exactly what the NFL wants. Also, who you didn't talk about, who is what the second number 2 seed in the NFC right now, but the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, do you feel good about them at all at 5-1? I'll get us out on that.
I mean, they're winning close games, and they always play close games. So similar to what I said about Brandon Staley, the Chargers getting over the kicker woes, if they can figure out how to win close games, then they can be a team to reckon with. But I mean, they didn't do anything impressive. Skylar Thompson outplayed Kirk Cousins until that thumb injury, and I bet outside of this on the Dolphins to cover, and I was all for it up until that injury. Skylar Thompson was eating them alive, quite frankly, outside the penalties that the Dolphins were holding them back by. But no, the Vikings, I won't go as far as say frauds because they will be playoff contenders and they have enough talent to be frisky, but they inspired zero confidence.
Yeah. How you have an offense with Justin Jefferson and your average depth of target is 6, your yards per attempt is below 6. I mean, come on, man. I could average like at least 8 yards per attempt if I was throwing to Justin Jefferson all the time. I could. So yeah, it's bad. I won't go, like you said, as far as to say that they are frauds, but they, more than I would say the Eagles not feeling like 6-0, the Vikings do not feel like 5-1.
I mean, yeah, they were a Waddle. I mean, Waddle had two key turnovers in that game: the tipped interception and then the fumble that lost it for the Dolphins, and they would have won with. I'm going to go ahead and call Bridgewater a third string quarterback at this point because as much as I thought Rodgers didn't want to be there, Bridgewater looked even more checked out, quite frankly. And I don't know how that's happening for a dude that is competing for his livelihood at this point. At least Rodgers got 50 million a year to fall back on.
Yeah, well, maybe it's the fact that Teddy's brain is mush right now from concussions. I don't know. Oh, I do want to quiz you here. Okay, get us out on kind of a fun stat. So completed air yards per attempt is something that I've been looking into more and more as a way to sort of separate quarterbacks' value from the receivers. I will remove Baker Mayfield from the equation because he is hurt and is far and away the worst, has been far and away the worst quarterback in the league up until the point he got hurt. But removing Baker, which quarterback do you think is last in the NFL in completed air yards per attempt?
Stafford.
He is 29th, so
Is it,
that's a
so
good guess.
is it Cousins? I mean
Um,
that seemed too plausible to be
it,
Cousins.
It is not actually. It is Kirkers is 21st.
Okay.
So not quite as bad. It's the bottom two guys are two names I shocked by, but 32nd is Kyler Murray at 2.7 completed air yards per attempt. 31st is Aaron Rodgers at 2.8. So
I'm excited for this metric. Let's change the industry.
let's do it. All right. We'll get us out on there. That is also, those numbers are courtesy of Pro Football Reference, by the way. You can check them out on their, or check those out on their advanced passing stats. But that'll do it for us. J Rob, get healthy, and, maybe the Broncos will surprise you this week. I don't know. But I like where we're at. And I am just so glad that the parody of the NFL season is just like full on right now because it's exciting. But that'll do it for us. And yeah, thanks for listening. There will be no Let's Ride. Sorry, everybody. Let's get out of here.